In the end of time, there was a man who knew the road, when the writing was written on the stone. In his heart he knew the artist must be true, but the legend of the rent was way past due.
Welcome back to the Star Wars Guys School of Rock podcast.
That was supposed to be Jack Black.
Jack Black.
I don't have
Jack
it
Black.
was.
That was it.
Jack Black. Yeah, for those of you who haven't seen the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, go watch it and you'll get the reference.
That was Captain Bombardier.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. As always, we are your hosts, Mike.
I just took a sip
Myself,
of my
Nate.
drink. Hello there.
And you know him well, Uncle.
I had a drink in my mouth.
We have to do that now all the time.
Yeah. So, a lot of stuff, a lot of news this week. So we're gonna do our typical, Mando review.
Yeah.
We got episode.
It will not be.
6.
I beg to differ. Perhaps. Just
May
going
not
out on
last as long.
may
as
not be
normal.
the exact
May not be
similar
the typical
Mando review. It might be a little different.
Might be a little different.
be a little
May not
different.
last as long as our typical Mando reviews, but
Or
we'll-
we could go forever.
we could go forever.
It's good.
But we want to make sure to touch on a lot of the Star Wars celebration
Yes.
announcements as well. Some of our
Yes.
thoughts, things.
We'll save that for the second half. We'll
yeah.
do
and
Mando
some
for
new
sure.
stuff that even came out today.
I know.
So
We'll
we're
get to all
gonna
that.
dive into all things Star
I
Wars
love it.
celebration. But before we do that, we're gonna talk through a little bit of the latest episode, Chapter 22, Guns for Hire.
Guns
Overall
for
thoughts?
hire. Uncle, let's start with Uncle. What is your
I
overall thought?
I just typed in Mando, and it came up Chapter 22 Star Wars Theory. So perhaps we could begin with hearing Star Wars Theory breakdown episode.
I bet he loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, you can start with me. You sure?
Yeah, let's start with Uncle.
Jack
Okay.
Black, Star Wars.
My
Derpy,
son-
welcome to the chat.
My son is 6, and he said this is the best episode of The Mandalorian he has ever seen.
And I love that.
And
And
that
he's-
is, I
and,
love
you know,
that for him.
But he doesn't pay for Disney Plus in our house, so he's a little out of luck
Yeah, that's.
because I beg
He
to
doesn't
differ.
make the rules. No.
I beg to differ a little bit.
Yeah.
Shout out to Eli though, love you, buddy.
Eli.
It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
We on the Star Wars Guys podcast YouTube channel, we like positivity,
Mhm.
and I can say positively, it was not good.
Yeah.
It was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Struggled with a lot of stuff. Cameos for me are hard when they're famous because
Yeah.
I can't help
Kinda
but
takes
see
you out of
Ned
it a little bit.
Schneebly there.
Yeah.
You know, I
Mhm.
can't see, but Alex, I can't help
Yeah.
but see Doc Brown
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And when you throw 3 of them in the same
in
episode.
the same episode. And
That's a
know,
lot.
we don't like being critical, but we do want to be honest.
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was rough. I watched
Yeah.
it twice.
I as
Yeah,
well.
and it's
Some people-
okay to
Twice.
be. It's okay to.
Some people
to
said
have
that about episode
criticisms.
1. They saw it once and they went back to see it again to make sure it was as bad as they thought.
Yeah. And you're saying episode 1, you mean Phantom Menace?
Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace. Way back in the old days. So it was bad.
Yeah.
It was not good.
I will.
But
echo-
here's the thing. Why? So I asked Micah. My
I do
son's
like this 'cause
why?
we can also just.
Why does this happen? How
Yeah.
does this happen? I said, well, think about it, Micah. So Johnny Fav designs the whole thing. Wrote this episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's the guy.
Directed by
She's
Bryce
a 1,
Dallas
2,
Howard.
right?
I know.
So he calls Bryce. They have a great relationship. Bryce, we got an episode. We want you to direct this episode called Guns for Hire. Here's the script. What is Bryce Howard going to do?
Yeah, you can't.
She's gonna
you
direct
John,
the
this is
episode.
really bad.
You can't change the story.
She's going to do the best she
She's going to
can.
direct the episode. Yeah.
But you're surrounded by people who go, Jon Favreau's written this. What are we going to do? Are we going to just say,
Yeah.
this is bad? Does Jack Black go, this is bad? Does Lizzo, who's getting his grab, say, no?
Why am I
No.
here?
And it just kind of becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
the end, everybody looks at it and goes, what have we done?
Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I echo those sentiments as well. First of all, just like you were saying with Eli, any of you out there who actually really loved this episode, that's great. We want to say, we've said in previous episodes, we never want to tell people you shouldn't like this or you shouldn't like that. Just
No.
like we don't like people
Right.
who would come
Saying-
after us saying, oh, you just like this
The
because you'll
Last
like
Jedi.
anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
This was an episode I really struggled with.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people on Twitter struggle
Yeah.
with it, and I also know a lot of people on Twitter, they were talking about how much they loved it.
Loved
That's
it.
great. That's great.
There were a number of reasons, and you mentioned a lot of them. There were a number of reasons why I struggled with this episode. And that doesn't mean what's interesting is I think similar to some of the, I think maybe even similar. I like that you brought up the prequel analogy. There are some things in the prequels, and I would even say I like the prequels a lot more now than I did then. But there's still things that I struggle with in the prequels, or things I'm like, yeah, I love this movie, or I really like this movie, and can also acknowledge that I don't think this is a good part of the movie, or that this is a strong writing here, or this. And there are definitely things in this episode, and even like stories in the episode of like, oh, I see what they're going for in some of these things. There are other things that were a bit head scratching of like, I'm not even really sure what the purpose is here. But then the execution of it, I thought like, man, this is weird timing that we're doing this. I think part of it's definitely that we're doing this episode 6 out of 8 for the season.
We only got 2
feels
left.
like if this was episode 3 of 8, not that I'm an expert in pacing or how the show. I don't know what's coming after it, but as fans who have been patient, because I think admittedly the last couple of episodes, there's been moments where we've been like, oh, I kind of thought this was coming in this episode. Not that we need to know everything that's coming, but that we've been like a little bit patient because we felt like, oh, is maybe dragging its feet a little bit. Yeah. But Bryce Dallas Howard always delivers on her episodes. Yeah. We're really excited. Right. And again, this isn't Bryce's fault. You can do only so much with a script you're given. Right. But yeah, I think the cameos for me, I saw someone on Twitter said it, and I think they nailed it. I think I sent it to you even. Uncle, I don't know if you've ever seen The Orville.
Yes, I have.
Was that Darth Chaco?
Yeah, Darth Chaco said.
Love Chaco. Shout out Chaco.
He said, listen, I'm very positive on The Mandalorian, very positive on this season, and have fought back against a lot of people who are critical about it in the past, he thought, unfairly. He said this is one of the episodes, if not the episode he struggled with the most, and he said it felt like I was watching an episode of The Orville, of like, or of almost like a Spaceballs or something like that, where it's like
Thor Ragnarok, like it went to the extreme.
It went to the extremes, but it felt. Someone even else said it felt like I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit of your musical host of the week is Lizzo, Jack Black's the actor, and Christopher Lloyd's there to promote. He's doing some Broadway play, or he's doing something, and they wrote a Star Wars sketch where they're like dressed up in kind of Star Wars-y clothes, and they do like something, but it feels not at all kind of like Star Wars. And so there were moments of that in there that I was like, man, I don't really know what we're doing. But then there's also moments of like, okay, I get the noir feel they were kind of going for, of like detective. But even that, the timing of it, I struggle with, because I was like, man, so in order to progress the storyline of them retaking Mandalore, which was the setup at the end of the previous episode 5 ends. We're going to go reclaim Mandalore. Great. Rah. We're all so excited. And then this episode's like, it starts off, and, well, first of all, it starts off with an Aquilish love story. That was, I will say, like 5 minutes in this episode.
That even happened.
Like 5 minutes in this episode, I was.
Apparently, I saw that was Tom Holland's brother.
Well, it reminded me of. It reminded me. Was it really?
That's what I heard.
Oh.
It reminded me of Norm Macdonald playing the Goo in the Orville. Of like, I was like, this is kind of so goofy. Like, not that Star Wars shouldn't be goofy. It has goofy stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But oh, sorry, and then one more thing before just kind of passing off as far as overall thoughts. I think the overall feeling of, I struggled the whole episode with, man, about midway through the episode, I kind of figured out like, oh man, we're not, this is going to be the whole episode of like a side mission to a side mission, kind of like we have to go get the other Mandalorians. Is our side mission before we can go to Mandalore, we got to go connect with the other Mandalorians. But then once we get to the planet, in order to access the Mandalorians, you have to first go defeat the battle droids, and like go figure out this. And I was like, man, feels like we're going to here, going to here.
If they had to defeat the battle droids, my volume would have been higher.
I know.
That would have been cool.
That would have been great.
That would have been great.
That was another thing I didn't like.
The CSI, the battle droids.
Yes, there was a number, and then I even have specific things written down that I thought Grogu was knighted for what? Like, that's kind of cool.
He wasn't on the mission.
He didn't even go on the mission.
He was Neville pointed for this. He didn't really do anything.
He didn't do anything.
It's a Neville
legitimately didn't even.
He wasn't in the episode.
I rewatched the episode, and what he did was two things. He did a backflip and ate a fish when she said, "Oh, he wants a food."
And he cheated.
And he cheated in the game.
Right.
And he became knighted at the very end. And I was like, I'm all for cute
and
points
then got
and cute
squat.
moments. Didn't got nothing.
Gave him a
for any of that.
hypothetical key that doesn't open anything.
They gave him a key to the city that
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
never returning to.
No, of course
He's
not.
like, there's no chance we're coming back to. We
no,
came
not
here
if we
and there
gotta
was an
come solve your
uprising
entire
immediately.
planet before. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Nate, overall thoughts. I know we're going deep already.
Yeah. I mean, before I
struggle
get
with it.
into some of the specifics on
The
why I
timing, all of
struggled with it, I will say there were a handful of things I actually really did like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
I
liked
liked
some stuff too.
I liked. I get what they were trying to do. I think with the battle droids and the droid bar and stuff, kind of giving that. We got some Roger.
Yeah.
We got some battle droids, super battle droids. So I like the mention of the Separatists and Count Dooku.
Yep.
I thought that was really
That was
cool.
cool.
Thought that was a good touch.
You on that note, you mentioned this, and I think you nailed it. You mentioned this. One of the things we mentioned off camera, we didn't talk about this much though, is you're like, this felt like a Clone Wars episode.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
It felt
yeah.
like
Which is
they
cool.
took a Clone Wars episode,
Mm-hmm.
which is known for a side mission episode or a
droid
side,
heavy.
a side story,
Which animation
droid heavy here
it works a little bit
plays
better.
episode,
Yeah.
and put it in Clone Wars. And guess what? I love Clone Wars.
That's a great way to
Absolutely love
say
it.
it.
So it felt like they were trying to take what they did well in Clone Wars and throw it into a Mando episode. And here's the issue: it's not Clone Wars.
right.
Well, in Clone
It's not
Wars, you have
Clone
Wars.
25
Clone
episodes.
Not
Wars,
25, right.
exactly. You have 25 episodes. This you have 8 episodes, and they do this episode, like you said, on episode 6, when there's 2 episodes.
Two
left.
left.
So
Yeah.
it felt very out of place, and I saw some people talking and kind of defending the episode. And again, a lot of things I liked about the episode, but saw some people defending
they
it. And
saying?
it's like, well, if you don't like this, you're gonna hate Clone Wars. I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not
What?
it at all.
Love Clone Wars.
I love Clone Wars. This isn't Clone Wars.
No.
Not supposed to be Clone Wars.
No.
It hasn't felt. Now,
There
if
are a
it
couple
felt
of
like,
episodes that you'll go,
and if
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Mando's
sure.
always
But-
kind of been. We've always joked about how Mando's kind of been like mission based. Especially the
Yeah.
first season was very mission
For
here,
sure.
mission
Mission
here,
of the
mission
week
heavy.
a little.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the theme. This was, I felt like, the most side mission thing we've ever seen out of
well, and
Mando, Star Wars,
I agree.
live action.
Yeah.
Like, completely, no real reason to it.
Yep.
Other than just well, if you want to know where they're at, to be able to talk
Yeah.
to the Mandalorians, we're not going to give you their location unless
we won't let you go.
save our
Right.
city. I just felt like,
Yeah.
no, that's complete.
Well, I thought of that when I was watching. Like, this feels like a side mission that I would skip.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, oh, it's a droid. Figure out the what else? Ooh,
Yeah.
I can go
Yeah.
fight
I
these
know
guys.
what you're
That's
saying.
going to live in my unfinished mission queue forever.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
That'll be part of
I-
the 98% of the
felt-
game that I
Yeah.
didn't, I completed the rest and I didn't do the 2.
Exactly. I just do that.
And I felt
We'll come back
like-
to it later.
I felt like, because I know we all
You know what
had
I mean?
the same feelings of, there were some, as much as we love Clone Wars, especially as it developed and
Love
got
Clone Wars.
really,
Yeah.
really good,
Great.
even in some of their best seasons, when you're in season 4 and you're rolling, there is the occasional we go on this droid story arc.
Still did that.
And when you watch it, it's not that there's nothing redeemable or nothing enjoyable about the episode, but you are like, I'm ready to get back to Maul.
right.
I'm a little
Yeah.
bit
yeah.
it felt like that, except imagine if
Yeah.
that there's 2 episodes left in the season of Clone Wars, and you're like, oh, they set up, and then Maul's gonna fight in the next one. It's R2 and 3PO off on
Yeah.
a side mission. You'd be like, oh, this.
How
And now,
long?
again, there are things at the end, like at the very end. I thought there was a lot of good with the Mandalorians and Axe Woves and the fight there.
You mentioned that after when we were talking.
Grogu
You go,
knighted.
well, oh, by the way, when we were talking, I forgot to mention, what was up with Grogu being knighted? And I go, as soon as he said that, I go, as soon as I saw that, I thought in my head, what the heck just happened?
She's gonna chop his head off.
Yeah.
It's all gonna turn.
I rewatched it. They're like, here's a key to the city. And I was like, this is
Oh,
literally
and
a,
before we go,
a mayor giving the famous athlete coming back to
Right.
St. Louis a key to the
right,
city.
Right.
And Grogu, you'll be knighted. I was like, we did nothing.
What?
I was like,
It
I'm all
just
for
felt
Exactly.
I'm all for propping
weird,
up
out of
Grogu,
place.
but it felt strange.
I think even with all that side mission goofiness, I honestly think my biggest issue with this episode was the fact that as far as progression in the storyline goes, we actually did get a little bit of progression in the last 2 minutes of the episode, which was Bo getting the Darksaber.
Right.
We'll talk about
So
those
as far
too.
as the progression of the
It
Mandalorian
got
story,
there. Yeah.
it got there, and even though it wasn't a lot, I do think that was the only piece of this entire episode that progressed the story. And the reason why this is my biggest issue with this episode, even though the other stuff was all super goofy and was could have skipped it, I didn't like even the part in the episode that progressed the story. I didn't even like that part.
I didn't either.
I didn't like the way they did
The way that she got the
Darksaber
Darksaber
transition.
reveal.
I felt like it completely
Yeah.
cheated Bo-Katan out of actually being a good, respected leader.
Right.
It felt like, oh, well, on a technicality, I guess you do get the Darksaber.
It was
And
also
then
after the fight. We didn't need to
it's
fight.
after.
That's the thing.
I know.
You just said it first. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
This is the
and
thing.
It made
It's-
it feel like, real quick,
Yeah.
it made it feel like everybody else who now was like, yeah, technically you're right. I guess we'll follow you. Now they're going and following Bo-Katan, like, reluctantly just following her. They don't actually want to follow her. They don't even want to be around her. They're just reluctantly doing it on a technicality, whereas
He's like,
if
you know
they
the
would've-
rule.
I would have liked it a lot more
Yeah,
if
I agree.
there was a scenario where the exact same scenario happened on a technicality, but the other Mandalorians were actually there to witness it.
Yeah.
Because then they'd be like, oh, yeah, like,
Yeah.
she.
We saw her be
that's
heroic.
it. We
She
saw her
saved
do
it.
it. We saw her defend
Yeah.
you. We saw
Yeah.
her. She can be our ruler again. Like, she deserves it. We saw her defeat it. She took it down. The way she yields it was very smooth. She obviously has a connection with it.
Right.
Like, that would have made way more,
Yeah.
like, emotional connectivity amongst the other Mandalorians to, like, get behind her.
Mhm.
Now I feel like, well, darn, this whole time we were hoping, like, building up to her,
Mhm.
getting the Darksaber. She saw the Mythosaur, might become the leader of Mandalore again, and now it's like, well, now they all reluctantly are just doing it because.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they won't.
And they
They'll do
might
it-
explain it a
I
little
think
more
they'll
in the
be-
next
they'll
episode.
be
I don't
full
know.
on.
Yeah.
It won't be reluctant. It's just
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I know. I just mean that's the way it came
Yeah.
across.
we're
It's
gonna
like,
just deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They- with that too, and what's funny is I think we talked about on the podcast before.
Darth,
I
what's
think-
going on? Welcome to the chat.
I think we had mentioned maybe on the podcast before that I noticed in that episode.
I thought it was done then.
Yeah, I thought
It's over.
I thought, oh, she just got it back because
Yes.
we even
Yeah.
mentioned it being an Elder Wand situation,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
it kind
Perfect.
of and then
then they
when
chose not to do that.
Then he like gave it back, or she gave it back to him, and we were like,
He just
oh,
buckles
that's
it.
interesting. But I didn't have a problem with that because just like the Elder Wand reveal
But-
in Harry, it's about how it's kind of
it's like,
revealed.
oh, I didn't disarm you.
That's
what was
right.
interesting was Din being the one to reveal it and like just say it expositionally, like, well, actually, this
Don't
is
you
what
remember?
happened. This
the
is what
audience,
happened, right?
The audience saw this and
And
this and this.
That's
The
right.
interesting thing about it, though,
Doesn't
is
feel right.
how long has Din been sitting on this information?
Mhm.
Because he's just been walking around with the Darksaber, and again, she fights possibly.
Yeah.
to
It
the
means
death.
everything to her.
He
That's
fights
true.
possibly to the death. Like you said, the fight didn't even need to happen. Imagine if she showed up with the Darksaber. They're like, "Whoa, what happened?"
Yeah.
And Din has already
Yeah.
explained to her.
Or if
They're like,
if
"Yeah,
she had
this is what
lost.
happened."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Actually,
one small
One-
note.
could you wake her up?
It's hers.
Yeah, it's actually hers.
My apologies.
Apologies.
So
apologies.
I thought that was
She's
weird
dead.
that they
Well,
like
it's
the
not-
fighting itself was cool, like
Yeah.
the way it was choreographed and stuff, and that was cool.
Real
But
quick, Darth in the chat says, "Will you guys be covering the whole celebration? Because there's a lot of things." Yes, we're gonna
yes,
get
we
to that
will.
in a
Yes,
minute.
we will.
We'll be covering everything.
So yeah, I had an issue with that. I thought it came.
Can you
off
get
as a
this
little
part
bit,
over with?
Yeah.
I want to talk about
Listen,
the good
this
stuff.
is how we all felt watching the
Darth,
episode. too.
I'm with you.
And
yeah.
I promise you, I still very much love this show and cannot wait for the
And
next
for
two
what
episodes.
we're hearing, the next 2 episodes are supposed to be incredible. By the way,
But
be.
they better be Rama.
Okay.
That's
But-
not my man, though.
It's not my
I
man, though.
I do want to roll through. I do want to because I know we don't want to spend too much time. I want to
Yeah.
roll through a couple questions that I wrote down while watching this episode, and even from
Why
like
was he
listening.
knighted?
Well, we answered that,
Why is he becoming a puppy?
but kind of big story, big
Just
story
petting him.
questions here that I'm
Like,
curious.
you don't realize this guy's 50, 55 years
I
old, do you?
know.
Yeah.
Dorothy could.
If once Grogu can
Force
talk, he'll
choke
go.
you.
He'll go. Get off of me.
Right.
He's gonna have a deep voice.
Right. Any cigars?
I have a family.
And there's a guys.
Somebody give me a cigar.
Yeah, let us know what you guys thought, too.
Okay.
You guys are watching the chat. Let us know what you thought of the
Questions.
episode. You can be
Questions
honest.
from Guns for Hire.
Some questions that I had
Okay.
watching the episode, especially watching it a second time, because I was thinking, oh, I wish that the second time made me like it more. I actually had more questions as far as there was some stuff that I actually
worse.
thought was a little inconsistent, which I'm not used to with
The
on
running
show.
scene was weird.
The running scene
He
was
turned
weird.
the wrong way.
I thought the
If-
running.
if
as
they
soon as
could
he started taking
run-
off, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And then I was like,
Well, he turned right
"Yeah, we've
twice.
never seen
I
him
noticed
run
that.
before?"
No, we don't have.
No, I've also saw someone tweet
Okay,
out and
yeah.
say, if they could run like this, the New
Just
Republic
straight.
would have been destroyed.
Absolutely.
Or the,
Yeah.
not the Republic. Yeah, it would have been the Republic at the time.
For
Would have
sure.
been destroyed. Instead, they walked into getting mowed down by lightsabers.
Even
That's
in,
right.
Even
They
in
never
the
ran.
battle droids?
in the Mandalorian,
Right.
The
even,
battle droids.
even in the Mandalorian, the flashbacks of the super
They're
battle
just
droids are
marching.
them walking, marching,
Yeah,
just
right.
destroying.
We never
things.
knew they could sprint like
Just
Usain Bolt or
agile.
something.
This guy
But
just took
Here's
off.
some
It
questions I
reminded
had,
me
though.
of iRobot.
I did like.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
when
it's
the
a-
robot gets
no,
caught and
yeah.
then just starts taking
It's
off running.
exactly
That's
iRobot.
exactly what it
That's
was.
what I thought.
Yeah.
I do like this quote. We'll give a positive. This is Commissioner Hellgate,
Yeah.
our Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, I like this part.
Well, isn't that the quack they're calling the stifling slimy? like I love just and give me. We talked
Yeah,
about
it's true.
Star Wars isms.
Star Wars isms. That was great.
But here's some actual questions. I have.
Ugh.
Some kind of big story questions that I'm a little bit
Quack,
concerned
they're calling
about.
the stifling slime.
The quack they're calling the stifling slimy.
Yep.
Here's a question I have. We already talked about the.
Snake in the scud pie.
So this felt like a little bit of a backtrack. Din has had
Sorry.
his
My mind is-
storyline. Din's story, part of his character development, has been evident since episode 1. He disliked droids. Then he went through
Yeah.
this whole character development of
With
you have
IG.
to trust droids. You have to this. IG-11 made him trust droids so much. He's like,
Yeah.
this
And-
droid saved my life.
Right.
He wanted to
yeah.
resurrect him at the beginning of this own
And
season.
trusting the builder who programmed it, because in this episode they go in the Ugnaughts. He goes, "No, I trust the Ugnaughts.
That's right.
And Quill,
Your skill with droids is
his
known.
his time with
Yeah.
Quill was like, you have to trust. Like it's all about
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the programming. All you have to trust them.
Right.
And he grows a ton through these last two, through the 2 seasons. It was him trusting droids. He needs it. I can't even go to Mandalore unless I get IG-11. Well, I can't get IG-11. Well, I'm going to go to Pelimoto, and she's going to give me a droid,
Yeah.
and we're going to take him,
Still
and
did.
we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in this episode,
I know
in
where
this
you're
episode,
going.
all of a sudden, he not only hates droids, hates them more than ever, and like felt like kind of out of nowhere from the very
you had me
beginning.
a battle droid.
You had me a battle droid, and I was like, "Whoa, that's strong!" Like,
Right.
remember, okay. He goes into the droid bar. I did see this is a very good tweet. I saw
Kicking
someone
them.
tweet and say,
I love it.
say whether it was intentional or not, it felt a little bit on the nose of. I saw someone tweet and say, Din in this episode literally becomes a cop for 5 minutes and starts racially profiling people at the bar.
Absolutely.
Because he becomes a cop and he walks in and he's like, "Do you want me to rip out your ear sensors too?"
It's good cop, bad
Nobody
cop.
move. And we're like,
Nobody
"Din."
moved. Now
And
everybody is on
all of a sudden he
lockdown.
hates droids so
It's
much
good
he's
cop, bad
literally
cop.
kicking them over.
Right.
And she has to tell him multiple times, she's like, "You kicking droids like a child is not helping
It's
anything."
Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy. All the way back
totally
to
is.
48
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, that's
That's
exactly
what it is.
exactly what it is. But it
Literally.
felt like, dang, I felt like we progressed past this.
Yes.
Then now all of a sudden you hate them more
You've
than ever.
evolved, I thought.
And so
Right.
that was a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a
Weird.
question about that. Another big
I
question.
don't have an
though.
answer.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, a big question. Do we feel like Din having the Darksaber all this time served any purpose for Din? And here's what I mean is now
He
that
even
it's
trained
gone,
with it, and
now
it
that
never
it's
went
gone
anywhere.
back to
Mhm.
he never got good with it really.
No.
It's not to we had
Almost killed him.
speculated that
He almost killed
we
himself.
we had speculated there would be a
Couple times.
Yeah.
we speculated that for a storyline it's going to be there's a big conflict now
There's going to be
between
a conflict.
Right.
a
They got to
divide.
resolve
and
this.
instead
Huh.
it kind of just resolved kind of itself. They didn't
Yeah.
really ever have a conflict. She never even threatened to like
Yeah.
fight him for it. Even he's like, "You should be fighting him," and she's like, "No." And she gets it back.
I like him.
Yeah. And also, this is why I'm asking, is I think coming into the season, not that we need to have our predictions right by any means. I want to make that clear. But we thought he had the Darksaber. We thought maybe he was going to be like potential ruler of Mandalore. They'd speculated, even hinted at maybe him seeing the Mythosaur. As to now, actually, all those things are Bo. Bo has actually seen the Mythosaur, and he
Right.
hasn't.
Right.
She now has the Darksaber.
Season 4 is Bo-Katan.
She has
I
the...
just kinda-
They
Yeah.
did say at Star Wars Celebration in one of the panels. Did you hear him say,
What?
"We want you guys to be asking questions about like what is the title even really about?" They said that at Star Wars
I
Celebration.
knew it. I knew
about
it.
like who is like what is the title
I saw a
about,
lot
or
of
is it about
people
multiple
saying,
people?
Is the Mandalorian falling into, or is the Mandalorian becoming the Book of Bo-Katan?
So
Ooh.
all that to
That's
say,
fun to
it did
say,
feel like
too.
Din's a little bit sidelined,
Yeah.
or a
So
little
was
bit
Grogu.
less. Grogu
Grogu
was,
wasn't even in this episode.
but
other than the backflip.
Grogu's gonna sit out more. He's gonna sit out. I was watching Survivor recently, sitting out challenges and getting all the rewards. He's gonna sit out more challenges if he's
Where are you
going
sitting
to new
out?
planets.
The small green
We're
guy.
sitting out the small, and he's sitting there eating his fish.
Two
He's like, "Yep."
six-day
And he's like,
challenges.
"My crown." He's just gonna get knighted every time he sits out. So
Okay, we're gonna talk about other stuff. Any other questions? Those are good.
yeah, the last couple. I have two more.
Okay.
Last two here. This will be quick. So we kind of already talked about, did it undercut or did it feel like
The dark
like the Darksaber going to Bo felt like, dang, it felt like that was
We
the
missed,
big button at the end of the episode that
right.
was supposed to get a big rise at. That when I watched, I was like, oh, okay. Kind of like we thought that she might get it back at some point, or maybe she wouldn't, and then Din would rise up, but she got it back, and it was kind of like, it was heroic off screen, not for us, but for them. Like the people who needed to see it didn't see it.
Yeah.
And then they saw it. She had a heroic moment fighting Axe Woves.
Maybe they'll explain
imagine
it further in the next couple
But it
episodes.
was
so
interesting
we'll
that
see.
he was-
future Mandalorians thinking back about the great moment that
Yeah.
Bo-Katan received the Darksaber on a rare and oddly obscure technicality.
After receiving
It'll
it,
reign in Mandalore lore forever. It just doesn't
also
feel right.
Yeah.
after receiving it that way the first time too.
Yeah, that's true. She's the double
She
technicality.
received it the first time with
So maybe that's
Sabine
fitting.
just going, here, take it.
Maybe that's fitting, I guess.
So
I don't know.
yeah, the only other thing I had
Yeah.
as far as the last question here, if we wanted to kind of move on. from
Yeah,
this,
let's get
was-
to celebration.
Yeah, the last question I had here was, do we feel? And I don't want to be too negative because I really love the season still. as
Do
a
it.
whole.
Yeah.
It helps our ratings.
But I do have
People
some
love that.
questions. I do have some questions. So.
Azar is terrible.
Just said,
I don't want to talk like this.
do we feel it all now? Kind of being removed from season 2. I was just looking back on the show and thinking of big moments that have happened throughout season 1, season 2, and now we're 3/4 of the way through season 3.
Yep.
Does it feel? I don't think it should necessarily, but do we feel like it's lessened the importance at all? I want to be tricky with how I say this. The end of season 2 is such a emotional moment. Here is the fulfilling of Grogu getting to a Jedi story.
Right.
And Din takes off his helmet. Feels like there's progress made there.
Yeah.
He shows his emotions to Grogu. Grogu going to train with Luke. All this stuff has happened. And Din has the Darksaber. There's a conflict. Almost all of those things, though, to me. And there's still so much value of what we got this season. But those kind of things feel like, well, the big thing of what made that finale special since then, Din has gone back to only wearing the helmet always. He's more devoted to the way. He went to a poison planet to show how, literally, to show that he is
Risking,
so much
life.
about the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Din and Grogu for this story seem a little sidelined because they're not really in the forefront.
Yeah.
We're not really kind of sure where Grogu's purpose or story is going for that. But also the fact that it was such a long time getting Grogu to Luke, that it feels like maybe there's not a clear direction of where Grogu and Mando's kind of personal journeys are going. Where in season 1 and 2 is very clear.
Yeah.
You had the lone gunslinger, you had the lone wolf and the cub type of a storyline of this is what we need to do. Now he's a father figure. Now we need to get him. Okay, seeing stone. He reaches out. There's a Jedi out there. We get him there. But then he ends up not really wanting to train with Luke. He comes back, and then they're kind of just, I guess, going through about the galaxy. So all I'd say is it feels like maybe there's less clear direction as to where their story is going.
Yeah.
There's a big direction as to where the story is going as a whole, as far as Mandalore.
Right.
But I'm still kind of wondering where
But now I have
Grogu
no- I have
and
no
Din's
idea
where
where
Grogu
Grogu
and Din's place in that.
I know.
I don't know.
So not that we have any answers, but
I'll
I
tell
just
you who
hold
had the
on for
hardest
about 20
week
minutes.
of everybody, though. Ron Howard. Because Thursday morning, Bryce calls and says, Dad, did you watch it? What'd you think?
Ron said,
Sweetie? Daddy?
"Sweetie,
Daddy?
you did as best you could." Yeah,
Daddy has to. Daddy has to. Daddy
He
loves you.
said-
I'm
Daddy-
sure he
Daddy
said,
loves you.
"Listen, with what you were
Hey, you
clearly
can't hit
given,
them all out.
With what you
and
were
with what you were
given,
given, you did
Right.
the best you could."
Right.
Because that script
Yeah.
is just not,
script was
So
not
all
it.
that to say, not our favorite episode. I'd say probably our least favorite episode, or at least
It's one
for
of my
the
least
timing.
favorite
For the
pieces of
timing, I
live
think is
action
what's
Star
important.
Wars.
Live action.
For the timing
Star
of it,
Wars.
because I think that's important.
Timing of it hurt.
I think the timing of it definitely hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having said that, I bet the next 2 episodes are 2 of the best they've ever had.
So that's
I
what
hope
we're
so.
hearing. We're hearing it's great. All right, let's
Hope
get
so.
to celebration.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to start by saying, Uncle,
We haven't talked to you about anything Star Wars Celebration.
do you know any of the
Purposely.
announcements from Star Wars
Yeah,
Celebration?
I've been
Okay,
reading.
good.
I've been reading.
Good.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I've been
This
reading.
is
I've been
good.
watching.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, maybe we'll start with
the big three.
the big 3.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it was announced on
The
the
big
first
3.
day of Star Wars Celebration at the big Lucasfilm panel.
Not
Um,
1, not 2, but 3
Star Wars
movies.
films. Yeah, Star Wars movies. Some people say film.
Yeah.
I say picture.
Cinema.
So 3 Star Wars
bunch of
movies
pictures.
announced.
3
that
Star Wars
are
movies announced, and
coming.
we have all. I've got. We'll quickly run through the details so we can kind of speculate, talk
Absolutely.
about it.
My favorite thing about the 3 announcements, and we'll get to the specifics of
Ooh.
each film. Favorite thing,
She's waiting.
each one
For my
is in
sequel.
a different era.
Yes.
I
agree.
love that.
That is awesome.
Because
I agree.
what they're doing, it makes me feel so much better about where we're at right now with Star Wars, with Lucasfilm, and
Yep.
and everything moving forward. Because there's been so much pressure on them to announce a film that will actually stick, And then they come out and announce 3, and I think it's genius because they're like, we want Daisy Ridley to come back and continue telling this story because
Yes.
we think it's going to be great. We also recognize that there's probably a lot of people that are really eager for a different time period.
Yeah.
And maybe they
Yeah.
want that to happen, but maybe not the first thing to come out or
Mhm.
whatever. Or they want some more stuff. If that's the only thing they announce, I guarantee there'd be a lot of people that love it. We would love it.
Right.
But people would be
A
like,
lot of people
oh,
wouldn't.
darn, we're not going anywhere else. Like,
Just
I wish
like
we-" So what they did was
It
they
was
said,
very
hey,
smart.
we're doing that. We're also doing something in the present with the Mando time period, and we're doing something super far back in the past. So them hitting the different eras,
awesome.
I think, is great.
Let me help me
Yeah.
remember this before we
Yep.
end, because it doesn't fit now, but it does fit. Remind me to share my Nashville, Tennessee theory
Oh,
of Star Wars,
all right.
all right.
because it bears it fits what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Oh,
But
I
we'll
want to.
talk
I want
about
to.
everything
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll remember that for sure.
Try to remember.
So yeah, I like that. So the way, for anybody who didn't see, there was a couple of clips that came out, and I had heard because I was following some people on Twitter that were there and were live tweeting as far as Star Wars Explained. I've got a lot of news from Star Wars Explained.
Yeah.
Alex
Yeah.
and Molly Damon have tweeted out a bunch of stuff because they've been at the panels. Like, oh
Obviously,
my goodness,
we
this is
wish
what
we
just
could be
happened.
there.
But very thankful
year.
for all of you who are breaking the news
Next
for us,
year.
so we can feel like we're there in the
Yeah.
best way possible. I like the way, first of all, it's been the big elephant in the room for Star Wars
The
going
bantha in
back
the room?
since the big bantha in the room. Since last Star Wars Celebration, we predicted what movie would be announced. Would this would be Taika's movie? This, and then silence, nothing last Celebration. And we were all pretty bummed, and we're like,
Yeah.
well, that's a shame. We kind of, and then we had the news going back a couple weeks ago that Lindelof was exiting
Yep.
the movie that we thought he was kind of the head of at the time, or at least was the most kind of prominent name that was
The Rey
attached to it,
movie.
and then
Yeah.
was out. And then we were all kind of bummed, and we even said on the podcast, like, it's only a few weeks away. Are they going to make an
Announce
announcement later? Because they're still working on it apparently, but they just hired a new writer.
Mhm.
Are they? What's going to happen? Are they going to even touch on this? The celebration, is it going to be a big thing
Yeah.
again? Will they announce anything? And I thought they hit a
More.
home run.
Yeah.
And the reason I think they hit a home run is they've been patient. We know they've had some things fall through. But instead of rushing out and being like, here's the release date, here's the next movie is coming is Taika's movie, or the next movie that's coming
Yeah, this is better.
is
They did the eras.
they did here's the timeline, because what it also does is it creates some
Listen,
space.
you gotta love a good timeline.
You got to.
Yeah.
It creates some space for these creators in their timeline to also, because I told you, I sent you an interview of Kathleen Kennedy of what she did. She did an interview with like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb.
Paul Allen in the chat says Daisy's
Thank you.
return was great. Yeah,
It was awesome.
It
So
was
yeah,
great
we'll
having her
go
back
through
on.
the big announcements for anyone who doesn't know them. The main things that were announced as far as the films. I like that there was an hour and a half long scheduled for this panel for this presentation, and I had heard that it was going long. It was already over an hour and a half, and they were just wrapping up Ahsoka, which we'll talk about the Ahsoka trailer. They're wrapping up Ahsoka, and people who were there were looking at each other like they're not going to do anything about the movies because they had, this is the amount of time they had, is an hour and a half. And then Kathleen Kennedy is on stage, and she's like, And they had like some creatures come out and do, and they're
Yeah,
like,
I
"Wow,
saw
this
that.
is a weak ending. What is this? Is all they have?" And then she goes, "Well, so I know some of you might be wondering what's going on with the movie side of Star Wars." And then people are like, "Oh, she's
Yeah.
teasing us." And then she talks about the timeline, and they announce and
Yeah.
have. This is why it was so good. They had the directors of each of the 3 movies come out on stage, and I'll talk specifically about why I think all 3 of these are really solid. As far as I know that movies have fallen through, but why I'm very confident that all 3 of these movies are going to happen is because they're all very safe, sure bets as far
I
as
will
what they're
say
doing.
not many, if any, of the movies that they've officially announced have fallen through.
Yeah,
the
they've
stuff
been,
that we say has quote
Yeah.
unquote fallen through has all been rumors of development that never ended up happening.
Mhm.
yeah.
The stuff that they've actually announced
That's fair.
hasn't
There's
fallen
been some.
through.
There's
That's
been
fair.
well, some of them. Rogue Squadron was
Rogue Squadron fell through.
sidelined.
Yeah, that's not fallen through. Even
It's
Kathleen Kennedy
sidelined.
mentioned today
yeah.
about Rogue Squadron and said there's still a medium for Rogue Squadron either being a movie or a TV series.
Oh,
Yeah,
fair.
and Taika's has not completely fallen through. She said
Taika's,
they're
yeah.
still talking about that.
She actually
Ryan's-
said it's in development.
Ryan, she said, I saw an interview with her today. She talked about Ryan Johnson, and she said,
Yeah.
Ryan's incredibly busy. We still talk all the time. He is just so busy with Knives Out. She said it's a smash hit,
Yeah.
and he's writing the next Knives Out, and who knows what else, because he's got his series, he's got these other things going on.
Yeah.
But he has made it very clear, and we've made it very clear that he wants to return to Star Wars at some point. So that's just a matter of scheduling and timing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all those things, those feel like they're
So-
on the back burner. But what I love, so this was, some of these were kind of rumored, and some of these are out of nowhere in the best possible way. So the 3 things they announced as far as Star Wars movies: 1, a Dawn of the Jedi era, 25,000
I
years
love it.
before the Battle of Yavin, before
Way
Luke
before
Skywalker,
even the Old Republic.
way before the Old Republic, and written and directed. So it's a story about the first Jedi and discovering
the first Jedi. They said it's
discovering
almost
the
like a
Force.
biblical take on the Force. What does it mean?
Hmm.
How do we connect with it?
And
How do we use
Written
it?
by George Lucas.
Well, why I'm so excited
I
here?
mean-
I know that feels very much
Should be
the Wills.
Yeah.
the Wills.
So what I love about this is going to be written and directed by James Mangold.
Yeah.
James Mangold is one of the best directors out there right now. He's directed some movies that I really love. He directed Logan. Any of you guys who have seen Logan,
Yeah.
which is to me
Logan's
one of
great.
the top 3 probably comic books superhero movies of
Yeah.
all time.
Mhm.
It's the best of any of the X-Men movies in my opinion because
Yeah.
it's just so good and grounded. 3:10 to Yuma is one of my favorite Western movies of all time. That's Christian Bale and
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
really good. Ford v Ferrari, which came out like last year and got like all kinds of Academy Award nominations.
great.
Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix. He's done
I'm
so many
gonna
different
crash.
movies.
Yeah.
But he, in an interview, a separate interview, said, my whole thing was I wanted to do like he even mentioned, he said like a 10 Commandments biblical epic.
Yeah.
Like he referenced 10 Commandments as
Wow.
far as like
That's
that type of
cool.
a story, like that type of a movie. Like that he's,
Yeah.
so
So let it be written.
some people, I saw some
So
people
let
like,
it be done.
Jedi Swords and Sandals movie? This would be
Wow.
great.
This is classic Jedi samurai.
That'd be
But
cool.
he said in his, not on stage, but in a separate interview, that he was very excited. He wrote up this idea, and he has been talking with Lucasfilm back since 2018. He was supposed to do a Boba Fett movie that got scrapped
Oh,
right
man.
after Solo flopped, as far as flopped in
That
the box
was
office.
he was
And
going to
so
do that.
Yeah.
he's also the one who's doing Indy 5.
He's doing
Mhm.
Indy 5, yeah.
And so the reason this feels like
He's
a
in
sure bet is
Lucasfilm.
he's in Lucasfilm.
Yeah, it
He's
makes
done
sense.
Indy,
Kathleen
he's
Kennedy.
done Marvel, he's done DC, he's
Makes
done
sense.
Kathleen Kennedy has already seen Indy 5 because it's coming out in a few months. Has already seen it and apparently loves the movie.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
not gonna he's not just gonna break ties with Lucasfilm. This
No.
isn't like a famous creator who had a big hit for a different franchise or a different studio, and we're like, oh, this person's hot right now. Come in and
Right.
create a Star Wars thing.
Yeah, no, he's already in
This
there.
is a guy who
Yeah.
already loves Star Wars,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
great.
said,
Yeah.
I pitched her an idea, and she was like, whoa, this is something we really like. And he said he likes the fact that it's not, it's tied to all the tenets of Star Wars,
Yeah.
but it's
That's
not
awesome.
involving a Skywalker, this or that. So he has a free reign sandbox to
That's
do.
great.
Darth in the chat said, "Imagine canceling a Dave Filoni movie. There's
That's
no
the
way
other
that's
thing.
going to happen. It's
Number
gonna
2,
happen.
they invited out and said, okay, James Mangold, come on out. They announced what his movie is going to be about, or as far as the
Right.
era. Then they said Dave Filoni directing his first ever directing of a movie, a film, live action film, which is awesome. Dave Filoni doing a Mandoverse culmination. They said it's the big climactic
it's
cinematic
Imperial
event
Remnants
that they've been
versus the New Republic. Yeah.
And so it feels like, by what we saw in the Ahsoka trailer that we'll get to, it feels like Thrawn will probably not be defeated in that show, and that he will be the big bad of this movie. Is kind of what it's kind of feeling like. He could be the Thanos of the Star Wars, kind of like that sort of a thing.
That we may see why. In that, I'm assuming we'll end up finding out why the New Republic didn't end up making it, and First Order was able to take over.
Yeah,
would make
that'd
sense.
be very
if
cool.
Thrawn's out there trying to take over, and then
the announcement
fail maybe or something.
And then the announcement that got the biggest noise, the biggest applause, was they will
Ray Palpatine. Ray Skywalker.
It had never been announced by Lucasfilm, by Star Wars, but we had been talking even on this podcast that everyone's been talking about this Lindelof movie, but the director, I want to make sure I say her name right. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is the director. She came out. She's an Academy Award-winning, or at least nominated, documentary filmmaker who also recently has directed some of Miss Marvel. That I guess, and I haven't even seen Miss Marvel, but I know a lot of people really love Miss Marvel.
It's good.
So she's directing it, but the big thing was 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker, the new Jedi Order is the time period.
The new Jedi Order.
She said, and she teased the audience like, it'll focus on our Jedi Master, building up the new Jedi Academy. Would you like to meet them? And people are like, is it a new character, or is it going to be who we think it is? Coming out, and then Daisy Ridley walks out. Is on stage, and she waves everyone, takes the microphone. She says, I'm so excited to be back, all this stuff. So confirmed all the rumors of her having lunch at Lucasfilm.
Having coffee.
Yeah. So we're, again,
right.
We've already talked. That's a long-winded way to describe what actually happened, but I'm super excited because I feel like they didn't pigeonhole themselves into.
Listen, this was the greatest.
This is the way to do it.
Day of news following that Mando episode.
You timed it. Hey, I got an idea.
Great.
Let's give them great news.
I went from oh man to I've never felt better.
Yeah. I have a prediction for the first line of the movie, the Daisy movie.
Yeah.
Somehow Palpatine's returned.
That would be great.
Me.
It would make sense.
The Emperor, he's not dead.
No.
He's
it would
coming
make
around
sense.
again.
I mean, we saw him just completely melt, but him coming back
coming back.
makes sense.
Overall, we haven't talked about it except right now.
Come on back.
Overall excitement for the announcements for the time periods, Uncle.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I've
wanted something historic for a long time.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
I've been saying I wanted Old Republic. Now we're going even further back.
Farther back. And
I love it.
It's tough. You give these directors and writers, tell a story that fits between these two things, has the correct vibe, doesn't conflict with any of the canon, and do something new and entertaining and special,
and tie in some EU to it,
and make me feel like I'm 10. Like, wow, who could ever actually hit all of those, right?
Yeah. And you're like, and a lot of these. And I understand how a writer, director, someone who's like, I grew up on Star Wars, I've been writing my own ideas. We come in, they're like, oh no, we actually have a thing for Boba Fett. You can't do that.
Right.
Or oh no, we actually.
They can't go that.
No,
Don't do that. Can't touch that. Stay within
technically
these guide rails, but do something completely different, but something that we love.
It's such a hard needle to thread. So having
taking that one element out, saying freedom.
Yes.
I mean, there are rules of Star Wars.
And they said
but
that
the freedom
movie,
of characters and space and
I
storyline.
love that.
They said
both directions.
Both can.
It's far enough back.
That's right.
That you have complete freedom. I mean, there's nuances that you have to stay within. What is the Force?
That's
you can't
right.
Just completely
What's a
change
Jedi?
what
all those
Star
things.
Wars is, but some freedom to tell
Characters
that
are
story
different.
doesn't matter
That's
where
right.
it goes because it's so far back,
That's
and then
right.
vice versa moving forward. Ray, this is the furthest in the future. Tell a new story.
Well, I thought of that idea that's a big galaxy, that we have a story that takes place outside of time. I don't know if that was what Taika was going to do.
Ahsoka.
Something that doesn't fit within a
Something.
time frame that we know of. We don't know where it is. We don't know the
Yeah.
characters. We just know
just
you
completely
can
somewhere
gauge
else.
it by the ships, but they're different planets,
They're not
different
even-
designs.
different-
We don't know exactly. I think that would be cool
Yeah.
too.
It'd be really cool.
I saw Paul Allen in the chat said, I think we'll find out why the New Republic is so small and weak in The Force Awakens. Maybe Thrawn is even still around in the sequels. Ooh.
That was
Could be.
mention
He's
that
still
point.
around. I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about that.
Mhm.
Could
That'd be crazy.
So why I think though, why I'm
Thrawn's
confident.
just back on Exegol in a different shot, watching Rey just
That
take
makes it
down
easy.
Palpatine. It's just
Right.
like, I'm out of here.
Thrawn's-
just
Thrawn's-
watching.
That'd be how he
He's
does
just
it.
watching the whole time.
Palpatine, Ray, and Palpatine, they're having their big showdown, Ben Solo, and then it pans over.
Thrawn's just
Thrawn's just looking at a painting in the background. And because he's always looking at art.
Right.
He's just
gory.
he's like,
He's looking at.
I think our enemies are going to attack. It's happening right now, Thrawn. He's
looking at.
He's always
That's his
tactical.
side hustle.
Do I help that, or do I go for Hera's Calicori over here?
I'm not sure about that.
You pay it
What
back
is-
and it's a
I love
risk
art.
board.
I
I
love
will
it.
take.
Speaking of Thrawn,
Yeah.
announcement. Lars,
Yep.
who
Mhm.
does the voice of Thrawn, announced today,
Announced today.
is
It's great.
coming back. He was on stage today at Star Wars Celebration.
Love it.
He is the live-action Thrawn, which a lot of people were
Makes a
hoping
lot of
sense.
for. Obviously, that's a great news because
Yeah.
he just absolutely kills it in Rebels.
It's
So
gonna be great.
Love it.
glad to
Last
have him back.
note on the 3 movies.
Yep.
Why? One of the reasons I'm so confident, as far as I don't know when they're going to come out, but
Why are
so-
you confident?
so confident that these
Yeah.
3 are going to happen, though. Versus even with the track record being muddied at best.
Yeah.
With certain things kind of not happening or happening in different time periods, whatever, is these 3 choices. Mangold's tie
Right,
already
the
to
people
Indy and
helping,
Lucasfilm.
yeah.
Got it. Filoni.
That's happening.
And she even said produced by Favreau. It's
Come on.
Favreau and Filoni
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
movie together.
Yeah, because they're continuing
In the
a story
time
that they already
period
had.
that they
Yeah.
have shepherded this
Right.
whole era.
Yeah.
This
It's
whole
gonna
time
be the
period.
end game.
And then, even though Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is new to Star Wars, she's already worked with Disney before with Miss Marvel, but also
They wouldn't.
they wouldn't
Rey.
bring Rey out. They wouldn't bring
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley back out there if they didn't have a
They got
firm
some-
grasp of. We feel like we have the story of where
they
we're
got
going.
some
Yeah.
momentum going for
Yes,
sure.
so-
For sure.
Those all feel like confident
I also-
announcements, which makes me excited.
With
Yeah.
the Filoni Mando movie. I don't know if it'd be a Mando movie, but that time period.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying or
Could be
what
an
we're
Ahsoka
hearing.
movie after
This
Ahsoka.
part's not confirmed. They didn't announce this stuff, but what we're hearing is that it's going to be, that time, the combination of those characters in the maybe Skeleton Crew and
Yeah.
Ahsoka
Mhm.
show and Boba Fett,
Yeah.
Mando, and lead to some big epic battle.
They
that we
did
might
say
be
battle.
getting.
Well,
So-
Filoni said it would be
Yeah.
there'd be a big battle.
Yeah,
It is.
so it sounds like either that's Thrawn or
Mhm.
whatever, but we're gonna get some big thing, which is why they probably thought, hey, let's make this into a theatrical, film.
Yeah.
Excited.
It does make me wonder though, are they changing potentially
Because you don't
some
know the
of
time
what we
period.
get with Mando? Because I see a lot of people wondering with this season, is this going to be the last season? And they took what they had scripted for season 4 and making it into a movie. Or are we still going to get season 4 of Mando and then get the movie after that? I don't know.
Don't know because right now, still on the Disney slate, it says that an unnamed Star Wars movie coming 2025, and most people have speculated that will be the Rey movie.
Yeah.
That felt the furthest along in
Mhm.
production
Right.
and script-wise and stuff like that. And Filoni made it clear on stage that this is not a Disney Plus movie. He said this would be in theaters. This is a
Yeah.
big theatrical.
You
So it'll be
can't do
interesting
Star
because-
Wars movie straight to Disney Plus. You can't do that.
No, but
Disney
he was,
Plus
he was
might.
yeah he was making it clear though because Disney has done straight to Disney Plus
Right.
for other things.
things.
But yeah, so it'll be interesting the
Keep it
timeline
as
of all
other
that.
things.
Right.
It'll be interesting.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Do we even need to? Maybe we don't even have to this exercise. I'm gonna say, do you want to rank? Do you have any rank of your excitement in all 3 of those, or just you're just super excited for all 3?
I'm super excited for all 3. The only thing I'd say is, as much as I love Mando, I'm more excited for the other 2 just because we are already getting the Mando story, so we're already seeing that right now anyway. So I don't mind waiting if that were a little bit further out. If it's not, that's fine.
Yeah.
For my
But
family.
I'm definitely most
I'm waiting.
excited for, I think, probably the furthest one back,
Mangold.
Dawn of the Jedi.
It's a different.
just
Mangold.
because it's
Everything's
completely
new.
different.
Cool.
It's what
Everything's
I've
gonna be
wanted.
different.
It's
Yeah.
new.
Right. I agree. I agree.
But then I'm really excited to see what direction are they going to go from here with Rey rebuilding. Like, who's going to be the next villain? Like in Star Wars, there's always been, and we're going to see it in Ahsoka too.
Yep.
With Thrawn and even these other Sith or Dark Jedi that we're seeing in the trailer stepping up. Just because the Emperor's not around, there's going to be other people that try to step up and take power. Even if you're a Jedi, someone will become corrupt to step up and take power.
I have a-
Because that's the balance of the Force.
I have an Ahsoka prediction. Ahsoka
Ooh,
is going
yeah.
to be the most Star Wars feeling live action that we've had yet.
Let's
think so.
transition to that trailer because
I
that
think
trailer.
so.
That trailer was
Quick reactions on the
so.
trailer.
but also edgy.
Yeah,
First thought, the logo in the background,
yeah.
was that not World Between Worlds logo?
Yep.
It is,
Yep.
yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, are
She
we going to
looks
be
like
moving?
She looks like she's
between-
fighting.
It
the,
looks
the
like she's
bearded
fighting,
Jedi in the world between
absolutely.
worlds.
Balin
Balin. Yeah.
It's
Balin
going to be mind bending
fighting
stuff
Balin
too.
in the world between worlds.
It's going to be crazy.
yeah.
So we
And
haven't
his
talked about it
apprentice.
at all.
No,
I
we
haven't
haven't-
read
we haven't
anything
said
about
Shin,
this.
I think is her name. Shin
Yep.
is the
Shin.
The blonde-haired?
the blonde-haired
Or
female
like white-haired?
who
Yeah.
is apparently supposed to be Balin's apprentice, and they're both loyal to Thrawn.
It's going to be crazy.
So,
what
Thrawn's got the
so
right hand man.
I
and-
texted you this, Nate. Uncle. We haven't
Apprentice.
talked about this at all after seeing the trailer. But when I first watched it, I thought, is that I don't even know how to say his last name. Kaiboth?
We'll have to get to Paul's question here in a second.
I thought, is that Jorus Kaiboth? I don't even know how to say his name, but
Jorus.
It is.
Yeah. And so
it is.
because
Heir to the
I
Empire.
did
Heir to the
read
Empire.
that.
They even
I did read
dropped
that.
Heir to the Empire in the trailer.
the fact that
crazy.
she mentioned
Loved
heir
it.
to the Empire,
Yeah.
Thrawn will return. You know,
As
he's coming
heir-
back
yeah.
as
I
heir
did
to the
read
Empire. I
that.
went, what? And then you see a great bearded, dark, dark side Jedi, force wielding, whatever you
Yeah.
want to say, lightsaber wielding. And I immediately thought, is that? Because I've obviously read Heir to the Empire, and even though it's not the same name because they've announced the character's
Yeah.
name, it could totally be we took a Legends character and we're changed
This is
some
our
things up.
take on
Yeah.
this
But this
character,
is
yeah.
our take on Thrawn having an allied dark Jedi.
Yeah.
makes
Who's,
sense.
Balin's
who's going to be
basically
his
Jorus, yeah.
right hand man, advisor, fighting on his behalf,
Right.
which got me super excited
Yeah.
because there's a lot in those Thrawn
Would
books
they
that
make
are
him
awesome.
a clone? We don't know.
I'm going to have to go back and read it again.
Yeah.
Apparently, he
I haven't
is-
read it since I read it when it came
Nate's-
out.
Nate's never
from
read
what
it
we've
yet.
heard,
Oh,
from what we've
man.
heard,
Gotta read it.
apparently Balin, as far as we know, is what's kind of going around. I don't know if they confirm this or not, but this is what we're hearing: is that he was a Jedi after the
Fallen.
he was a fallen Jedi. So it doesn't
Mhm.
sound like they're going the clone route.
Right.
That Jorus, I guess, with the both U's, because
Mhm.
Legends loves the Luke
Why not?
concept.
Luke, yeah, you
Luke.
got to.
Sounds like they're twisting it maybe a little bit, but could be that take on
Okay.
the character. Sounds like he was a
I love
fallen Jedi
any
that
tapping
became loyal
into
to
Heir to
Thrawn.
the Empire. Just the fact that you mentioned Heir to the Empire to me goes,
Right.
Yeah.
oh, it feels perfect that
Yeah.
they've got Thrawn. They're saying Heir to the
We
Empire. And I
got,
saw that Filoni said that they that he has been in constant communication with Timothy Zahn
Yeah,
about approaching
bringing
how
That
to
would be how
live
Dave would do
action.
it.
about how to. You knew that Dave would. Like Dave was always
Yeah.
about. Oh, I
I'm
want to
sure he
respect
did the
what
same
Lucas
thing
said.
when
Yeah.
he did the same thing. I'm sure when he brought him to Rebels, and now it's like, how do we?
Because
bring
it's
him to
not
live action?
canon for everybody else, but it is for him.
It is.
I mean,
he said.
he grew up. I mean, we all.
He said on totally.
He read that one.
He
Yeah.
mentioned on the
It
panel.
was as real as anything to him.
He mentioned at Star Wars Celebration that he's like, listen, I love. He mentioned his own history with Star Wars, and he was talking about how excited he is to have because when they announced, Lars Mikkelsen coming on stage and him being Thrawn, and Filoni said, listen, the character of Thrawn in those Timothy Zahn books, people forget it was like Zahn revived Star Wars. It was in a time where it was
we
kind
didn't
of just
have it.
over.
We didn't have
It was
any.
kind of like ending. We didn't have anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he gave us this, and he also sparked the imagination of so many people. Like, oh, you can. There's other. Of course, they're going on. Luke and Han are going on
Yeah.
other adventures,
Yeah.
and then that sparks you as a kid to
Absolutely.
go,
Well,
"Whoa,
what else?
What
Something
else
is-
is
yeah.
happening out there? I didn't know
Yeah.
this was going on."
Mhm.
And he talked about how he's loved being able to take some of those things, make it kind of fit what he feels like the feel and where they're going with Star Wars now, but
Put 'em
also
back
pay
in.
homage, to how important those were to him. He's like, I love that we
Yeah.
can take an actual character that was created in Legends, bring
Yeah.
it here, and then now still have it feel like
Yeah.
everyone is seeing a character that they grew up with, even though it's never been on screen before.
Right.
That's
until
awesome.
we did it in Rebels. And
That's
everything.
awesome.
So
Paul in the chat said, "Will we see another return of the Sith so quickly after Palpatine's death?" I believe he's referring to
for Rey,
the new Rey, Rey movie that's coming out. I don't know if we'll see a return of the Sith, but they might be,
they did say it's very
Could be
much
something
post-war. That's what they said. Very much post-war.
which could be
Which is
honestly
interesting.
kind of a
Because
a
15
different
years
take
after
on what
now.
we're
Yeah.
seeing in Mando right now.
Mhm.
Like post whatever, let's rebuild. Now in this case, the First Order's gone, and they got to rebuild. They got to start the Jedi Order.
Mhm.
What does that look like? And when it comes to Star Wars, we've always seen these characters that are light side characters that someone's gonna turn. Someone eventually turns
evil,
and goes.
evil always fills the void.
There's always
You
somebody
always try
that
to get
wants to fill that gap of Palpatine's gone or Kylo's gone. Someone wants to fill that gap.
Tell you what I'd
take
like
the
to
power.
see. I would like to see post Sith. Like, we're gonna fix everything the Sith did wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
new Sith.
We're
Like,
gonna do everything they did. We're gonna take the best parts of it and we're gonna keep it, but it's still gonna be bent on self.
and
I just
corrupt-
think
yeah.
that could be.
Well, we're going to
interesting.
realize that
You mean
rule
like-
of 2 makes me your enemy.
We got to change some
Yeah.
stuff.
We gotta change some.
We got to
stuff.
walk both worlds. I think that would be cool.
I
An
think that would be
enemy
cool.
that they
Yeah.
use the
I
Force in
think
an
that
evil
would be
way.
cool.
They won't call themselves Sith. They would be like an evolved version, something
Yeah.
different.
Zith.
Sith.
So-
Sith.
So the Ahsoka trailer overall,
Oh my
I was blown
goodness.
away. I thought it looks
Incredible.
so good, so cinematic. But also, what I was struck by is it definitely feels dark in a good
It
way.
does.
Yeah.
Meaning, I think that there's a number of ways they could have gone because we've talked about the Ahsoka series being possibly, Rebels 2.0 because you're bringing the Rebels characters back, but this is very much Ahsoka's story with the
Yeah.
Rebels characters and how they tie to her and getting Ezra
Right.
back in Thrawn.
And I
But
want to.
Right.
it is it's very much shows that it's
Yeah.
Ahsoka. She
Yeah.
goes to Sabine because
Right.
it's Ahsoka going to Sabine.
It's not.
It's
Yeah,
not just
Hera-
oh, the band's getting back
Right.
together and they're
Mhm.
doing all this stuff. It's very much it feels like a very
It's
specific
very.
story for her.
It's even though
Yeah.
it's these rebels characters.
It's her path.
It's Ahsoka's point of view, her path.
What was it? Rebel outlaw or rebel outcast Jedi?
Jedi.
Yeah.
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And
Kinda bringing it
Darth
back to the
said
fold.
we also see Morgan Elsbeth in the trailer, so this takes place before Mando because Ahsoka defeated her. That may not be entirely true. We know that the Ahsoka series is touching on World Between Worlds. We know that there is a younger Ahsoka also cast in this series. So we're going to be jumping from timelines. So even though we see characters that maybe have already been defeated by Ahsoka, we're going to see different time periods in this series.
We
So
also see.
I think the overall overarching thing of Thrawn is the Mando time period.
Yeah.
That
because
is
the-
Mando time period because we
Can't-
see her in
It's gonna
Mando
be
say,
crazy.
we see
Where's
Mon
Grand Admiral
Mothma.
Thrawn?
We've never seen Genevieve O'Reilly because it took me a second. It
No.
wasn't until after I watched the
That's
trailer
right.
that I went,
No.
wait a second. This isn't anywhere close to the Andor timeline.
No.
yeah,
We've never seen Genevieve O'Reilly play older Mon Mothma
Mhm.
post Return of the
Right.
Jedi.
Right.
Now, could there be flashbacks? Could that be some World Between Worlds stuff where she's
Yeah.
entering a different time period? Ahsoka is, and now
we also know Hayden
Because if not-
Christensen's in it.
Mhm.
So we know we're getting some of that, whether it's him as
Yeah, we
Vader
almost
or
forget.
Anakin. We might get both. I
This
think
show
we'll
is
get
so
both because
crazy in the best way that we almost forget
It's
that
gonna
Hayden
be
Christensen's
insane.
been
I think-
announced
I
already that
know.
he's returning for
Yeah.
this.
and because we're getting a younger Ahsoka, we'll get some Clone Wars, whether it's flashbacks or actual World Between
Glad it came
World
out the same
moments.
day. I'm so glad it came out the same day.
We could see.
If
we
it
could
had,
see.
what would we be doing?
What if we saw Rosario Dawson?
I mean, the trailer with
Yes.
the Mando.
Yeah. What if
Yeah.
we saw Rosario
Yeah.
Dawson, World Between Worlds, looking at a younger Ahsoka? That'd be cool.
I know.
But I heard,
Awesome.
again, they didn't confirm this yet, but rumor has it that we might actually see a reenactment within this show of the Ahsoka Vader scene we got in Rebels.
Hmm.
Could
That-
be
that we
could be
see
World
where
Between
Ezra-
Worlds.
where Ezra
I
pulls
wondered
her
if
out.
we
That's
would
one of the
see.
We might get that.
I wondered if they would do things that are live action versions. I wondered
Yeah.
that.
So I think
That'd be
we
Because
might-
there's a lot of
even
people
if
who
it's a different
haven't seen-
perspective.
Absolutely, it
There's a
would
lot of people
tie
who haven't
things in
seen.
that they don't
Yeah.
So
have
yeah,
to go watch.
we
that.
might be getting that
Man.
Vader Ahsoka moment in a
Gosh.
Sith temple
Oh my goodness.
where Ezra's there
That
pulling Ahsoka
well,
out
that
in
means
the World Between
Maul's
Worlds.
right down there too. Kanan's
Maul's
right
there.
down
It's
there.
just
I mean, the
insane.
whole thing is like
It's great. The Inquisitors.
they're all there.
Also, I noticed in the trailer a breakdown
Man.
of the Inquisitor that
Damn.
Ahsoka's fighting at the very end.
Yes.
When she drops,
Yes.
she's fighting the Inquisitor from Rebels with the
He's got the
like,
line across.
the fanned line thing. That
Maybe
goes
we'll
all
get
the
to
way
see the
across
flying
map.
sabers in this one.
They better have
The Mary,
skinny, long
Poppins
heads.
sabers.
We might.
Their heads better be skinny and long this time.
That's true. If I don't get skinny long heads,
How
I'm out.
big of a thing that was.
That was a big thing. I will
That
be
was such a
honest,
big
it wasn't the
Do
best.
not adjust
Yeah,
your
it was
set.
great.
His
It was one of
face
my
is
favorites.
wide.
Yes. The so a couple other announcements
Yeah.
today.
No, let's stay on Ahsoka.
Today. Well, this
Ahsoka,
is a little
Ahsoka,
Ahsoka
Ahsoka.
adjacent.
Oh.
I'll
Tales of the
do
Jedi
Jason.
2 announced by Dave Filoni
True.
today.
Mm-hmm. I
And
didn't
he's
see that.
Jedi too.
Today?
today.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Announced just like a couple hours ago. And he said
He saved it for the
Man.
podcast. Thanks, Dave.
they didn't say which characters that
I
would
know,
dive
they
into,
didn't.
but I loved the Ahsoka
They're not calling
Dooku.
it. It's just Tales of the Jedi.
It's just Tales of the Jedi season
Yeah.
2.
Season
Yeah.
2.
season 2.
More
So,
tales. Even more tales.
Even more tales.
Even more
Extra.
Two
Look,
tales.
another tale.
Extra scenes.
9 Tales of the Jedi. Acolyte footage was shown.
I know, guys.
It's
why
not
aren't we
released
there?
for us
I'd
yet.
see
Why aren't we
Yeah.
there?
Yeah,
also,
we
they
haven't
showed
seen
an
it.
extended version of the Ahsoka
Ahsoka
trailer.
I heard that. I heard the
They
Well, they
also
gave us-
showed Mando the
They
next
gave a
episode.
sneak peek of the next. I read that though. I
The
didn't.
I
mean,
heard
sneak
that.
peek.
I didn't mean to. I was
Yeah,
just
I
like,
know.
No.
I can't
Wait, did you
unsee
see
it.
it? Did you see spoilers?
No, I was just reading through the thing. I
Oh.
didn't
Yeah.
see that. I just saw the name.
I saw
Yeah.
That was enough.
Oh. Yeah, I
was
didn't
like,
see the
what-
name.
Oh,
I did hear that in
didn't
that
black it out.
extended look at Ahsoka is when they revealed Lars Mikkelsen. They showed his face
Yeah,
as Thrawn
yeah.
Oh.
in that
Yeah, they
extra
did.
footage that's
I-
not released to us
I
yet. For
Okay.
Before we
Ahsoka.
move on away from Ahsoka, one thing I want to touch on with Balin and Shin, I love the look of the lightsabers, and that they're actually orangish. They're not
They're
red,
like orangish,
not
yeah.
red,
Mhm.
and they're not straight white, pure white core either
Mhm.
on the saber. If you notice, which I mean it's just a preference thing. I thought it was oh, that's kind of cool. It's a different take.
Yeah.
They're obviously trying to make this look different.
it's different.
It's its own color. It's
great.
orange. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. I like
It's
it.
awesome.
I like it.
I can't wait for the. I was really excited for the
They
Ahsoka
also show
series.
it's like a Vader scene.
yeah, him.
He's blocking and
Oh.
choking.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And that was
awesome.
definitely
in
a
like a
rebel.
hallway or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
It looked like in like one of those the rebel ships almost
Yeah.
looked like. Yeah, I was super excited for
Another
Ahsoka
hallway
already.
scene.
I'm way more excited after seeing the
Star
trailer.
Wars
though.
and their hallway scenes are great.
It's awesome.
So a couple more announcements. So Acolyte footage was shown, and apparently I tried to not read a bunch about it, but Star Wars Explained said I'm not going to spoil anything except it looks so cool. It looks really cool, and they said it just looks different than anything we've ever seen live
That's
action
good.
Star Wars. So
I
that
saw-
sounds
and
cool.
guess who's
Good.
back? The Jason who does what's his name? Who plays Chewie and
Oh no,
yeah.
Jonas
Jonas.
Swatimo.
Yeah,
Swatimo. Yeah,
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, who
Swatimo?
plays,
Swatimo?
who plays Chewie?
He's
in
playing a Jedi Wookiee.
the Jedi Wookiee.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
No, I
An
did hear that.
acolyte.
All right. Cool. That's cool.
Andor season 2 is still underway filming, but they showed some footage apparently, and they said that they showed a bunch of different time jumps of different characters looking different, different haircuts, different facial hair, and a bunch of.
Wow.
They called it with someone. I don't remember if it was Ken Knapsack or someone said it wasn't necessarily a trailer because it was a lot of different shots, just kind of shown us. It was like a hype reel of just getting us hype for.
Cool.
fact that's
Andor
coming there.
season
Cool.
2. Also,
Skeleton.
Kino Loy is back, by the way.
I know. Did you see
Did you
that?
hear
Didn't see that.
He announced.
Kino Loy
They
was
announced there that he
Kino
was
Loy's
going to be in
back
season 2.
season
Wow.
2.
Yeah.
So he survived.
He also, I heard,
One way out.
he announced he led a
Did you
cheer.
see that?
He was
That was
swimming.
really cool.
There was 200, 300 people all dressed up in the prison suits from Andor. They're all at celebration together, chanting "One way out."
Oh my
like
goodness.
an actual riot looking.
Like,
It looked
it
really
was
cool.
awesome.
It looked
Scary.
really cool.
I shared the video.
Yeah.
I was like, I love Star
It
Wars.
was
That's
cool.
I was
awesome.
like, this is so great.
Crazy.
Skeleton Crew footage shown, and the only thing I heard
Yeah.
about this
Oh, I
was
know what you're gonna say.
about Jude Law.
Yeah, he's a Jedi.
Is a Jedi
What?
or is a
Jude
Force
Law's
user?
character's a
Yeah,
Jedi.
Oh, that makes sense. I
yeah.
guess.
So that's pretty
So he's
cool.
watching over the kids, the younglings.
Jedi and the kids.
Jedi and the kids. Jedi and the kids. They're bringing Jack Black back.
Jedi and the kids.
Jude Law and the kids.
Jack
Jude
Black's,
Law.
Jack Black's gonna be in it. He's just gonna start singing it.
Artist must be true.
Yeah.
But
So,
the legend, skadoosh.
what else we got? What else we got?
Last couple things,
Got
guys.
Kung Fu Panda and
Indeed.
School of Rock living
No,
in the
it's just
same
everything.
world.
And Bowser.
Peaches.
Peaches. By the way, for Ahsoka, August
Yeah.
August of this year is when it's
Yeah.
coming out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
initially,
Acolytes
I think
next year.
Rosario Dawson had said like, "Oh, it's sometime in the fall." Like, it's actually earlier. It's August.
I asked
which
Dave
is
to
not far.
try to get it out before my birthday. So
And he
Yeah.
said, "Oh," he took off the cowboy
So,
hat and he
I
said, "Who are
saw-
you?"
the prediction is August. What's
Yeah.
the second Wednesday? It'll be about the second Wednesday. of
Yeah,
August.
I'd say.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So, last couple of things. Jude Law.
They're still going. We're still getting
Um,
more announcements.
Here's
I love it.
last couple things I had written down here. Actually, screenshot a couple of these things 'cause it was
Ooh,
interesting.
Put it up on
Um,
the. No, I'm just,
This is
yeah, we
an
don't- we can't do
article that
that.
came out today. Variety saw this like an hour ago or 2 hours ago. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy on Daisy Ridley's
Inspired.
new Ray film,
They
Obi-Wan
replaced,
Kenobi season 2 possibilities, and Ryan Johnson's
saw that.
Star Wars. Yeah,
Whoa. Okay.
So here's what she said. She said
that.
regarding Ray returning, regarding Daisy Ridley,
Somehow
it was a pretty straightforward phone call. She said, I started out by just saying, hey, I think we're getting near being ready. We've been talking a lot about what we're doing in the movie space, and I think we are finally close to being ready. How about you, or how would you like to show up to Celebration for the announcement? And she said she was excited, like out of her mind, excited to come back, which is great. That it's just
Which is good because
excited to hear.
sometimes you see things online, social media and stuff, you can't really tell how the actors are really feeling, or someone
Yeah.
takes a quote maybe out of context and they're like, see, Daisy really hated Star
Oh,
Wars.
she get beat
No,
up a
we
lot
don't
for
know
yeah.
that.
All right.
And I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Also, we on this podcast have all said, regardless of whatever you feel about Rise of Skywalker, and we're fans of it, her acting was phenomenal.
Oh my goodness.
Honestly,
Phenomenal.
Nobody has a
regardless
problem
of how
with
you
Daisy
feel
Ridley.
about the sequels in general, the acting is by far the best performances we've had.
And I think that Ray's character is such a good character.
Her
Like
acting
I
was
was
great.
very
Luke,
much.
I mean, Mark Hamill's acting was the best he's ever done.
It's great.
Yep, right.
All of it was
Right.
the best.
I
I
agree.
mean,
I agree.
Kennedy also offered an update on Lucasfilm's collaboration with Ryan Johnson. I'm just reading the article. Who is potentially working on a new Star Wars trilogy. Ryan and I talk all the time. He is unbelievably busy, so we are not actively involved in anything at the moment because he's doing another one of the Glass Onion movies, and
You
then
forgot we
who
already
knows
talked about
what
this.
else.
We did.
And then
It's
who
all right.
knows what else. But he really
We'll let him
wants to
keep
step
going.
back into the space. It's a big commitment of time, so that's really on him. Taika Waititi was also mentioned in this interview. Taika is still working away on
Ooh.
his script. She
All right.
said, quote, he's writing the script himself. He doesn't really want to bring others into that process, and I
Oh.
don't blame him.
he's got a very unique.
He has a very, very unique voice, so we want to protect that, and that's
New
what.
Zealand.
It's Kiwi accent.
It's an accent.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell her, but it's
I mean,
Kiwi. It's not that.
That's
unique.
why his
The
unique
whole-
voice.
yeah.
It's not
She's
that
like, I've never
unique.
heard of that.
Millions of
what,
people have it.
What planet is he from?
I don't
It's
know.
called New Zealand.
boys.
They do have the
Um,
working title of that, by the
This
way.
is me.
We've shared. I leaked
Yeah,
it on
you
a
s-
previous
yeah.
cast. Jar Jar
yeah.
Rabbit.
Jar Jar
Jar Jar
Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Yeah. They thought that after the previous Mando episode, the announcement of Jar Jar Rabbit might be a little too quick.
Star Wars
Too quick.
Ragnarok. Here we go.
Yeah, we just got that in Mando.
That is exactly what we just got. She said, so we want to protect that, but we're going to make that one day. She said we were going to make that.
I vow one day.
Then she was asked about Obi-Wan Season 2. She said that is not an active development, but I never say never because there's always a possibility. That show was so well received, and director Deborah Chow did such a spectacular job. Ewan really wants to do another. Everybody's all hands
Did
on
see
deck
that.
with what we're doing right now, so you can see, as you can see by what we showed at Celebration today. We'll turn our attention to that again maybe down the road.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening.
No.
But
This is a complete sidetrack based on everything you just said. It's something I saw earlier today.
this is about the
Kinda
Wizard of
reminded
Oz.
me-
Oh.
No.
Okay, go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
but someone. So this is literally has nothing to do with anything we just said or Celebration. But I saw someone post a thing about their hate for
This has nothing to do with
the
anything.
sequels.
yeah.
And said they should have brought Maul back and had him be the big villain. I'm like, do you realize Maul's died like 8 times?
Oh my
and come back?
goodness.
Let's not do that again.
Also,
Yeah.
how do you quickly tell someone to go watch Star Wars Rebels? And
Right.
he was like, well, Maul should have been like,
You gotta.
No, I'm assuming they saw Rebels.
he saw
And was
Rebels and
still,
like,
like,
he still
Why
should come
not?
back.
Bring him back. Sure. Why
Okay.
not? Why not? I
yeah,
love
so
Palpatine coming back.
The last thing was, did you see that I sent you a video of her talking about Donald Glover?
Yeah.
And she
Well,
said
Donald
that
Glover had
so-
an interview just 2 days ago about it too.
Doing Orlando?
and said that they're
Lando.
working on timing and trying to figure out exactly what the story is, but she said that it is absolutely still happening.
Well. What
So-
are we here?
Well,
see.
Lando
Yeah.
Calrissian.
Well. 3 years ago we announced the
John
show.
Glover had
That's
an
it.
interview a couple days ago, and he was asked about it and said basically the same thing. Is kind of working around. But got to the conclusion of it's probably gonna happen. All this. That's
It
all I can
sounded like
say.
he might have even known a little bit more.
might be making
Like
a
that
move.
there's
he,
been
but
a
he
little
even
bit of
finished by saying
might
that's all I
be
can say.
making
Yeah,
a
it,
movie.
it sounded like there hadn't been a ton of progress on it, but that recently maybe they've come to an understanding as far as like, oh, this is kind of our idea
He's
for
like,
it.
I'd
And
love
he's
to
like,
get
I'm
back
on
in
board.
that space of
Yeah.
Lando.
Right.
He's such a unique
That's great.
character. He's
So-
fun to play.
So much at Star Wars Celebration. Actors, movies, showing us trailers for Ahsoka, sneak peeks of different shows that we haven't been able to see yet. Can't wait to see Acolyte. Really excited about Acolyte.
Yeah.
I know-
it's gonna be incredible.
Leslie Headland, the showrunner for Acolyte, came out on stage and talked a lot, and they said people that like Alex
Yeah.
Damon, like Star Wars Explained, was like, she is like a Star Wars nerd. Like she's like, oh, I grew up on
I love
all
hearing
this stuff.
that. Yeah.
She's like, she said, oh, she actually her quote was, she said, Star Wars saved my life. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Like she was like, she's not one of these people who are like, oh no, yeah, I
I
understand
watched the
Star Wars is
movies.
influential, and I grew up of a certain
like, no,
age that
this
like,
was
yeah,
my-
I saw
this
Star
was
Wars
my
in the
outlet.
theaters, and
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
a famous movie director, show director, and it'd be cool doing Star Wars. She's like, no, like I play with action figures on Friday nights by myself. Like she's like,
Still.
I love
Wow,
Star
that's cool.
Wars.
No, like I'm
So that's
printing
cool.
Mando suits.
Who would do that?
Hey, it's
Hey.
coming.
I know. I love
Hey,
it.
also, not announced yet, as far as from the beginning of this podcast, because I haven't checked any current news since we started. Obviously,
Well,
we're on air.
There has been everyone knows not to break news during our show.
No,
No,
you
no,
can't
they
do
wait.
that.
No.
Not while we're going.
They're watching.
Another Star Wars Explained said that he had heard to be on the lookout for Jedi Survivor announcement and maybe some bonus stuff that
Oh,
might be
that's
coming later
cool.
today
Today.
Ooh.
at a particular panel. So we might get some.
That's
some-
awesome.
So
All right.
I think they're supposed to release the last trailer they're going to do before the
Okay.
game comes out, and he said maybe some bonuses. So it might be just something for Celebration, like maybe he's there or something.
And the
Carol.
game
be
comes out the
cool.
26th, 28th, something like that.
Something. I
April
don't remember
something.
the exact day. Yeah, but
Couple weeks.
coming up. It's coming up. I saw they
Wow.
did something like maybe about a week ago with a bunch of people that got invited at Galaxy's Edge. They were all out there doing, and they got to all play some previews of it
No,
and
that's
stuff. I saw
cool.
some people. Chaco was talking about it. He was there.
That's awesome.
But
Well, what a Mando episode, and what an episode of our podcast.
more like
What a
what
podcast.
a Mando
Uh,
episode, and then
Yeah,
what a
really more
great
like what a podcast episode.
What a podcast.
Mando. Yeah.
Mando.
In the end of time.
No,
Okay,
Yeah.
let me share my Nashville theory.
Oh, I'm so glad.
my
I
Nashville
completely forgot
philosophy.
about that.
I was
and
gonna remind you of that.
Here's why
I
we try to
forgot.
stay positive. Okay, I spent some time in Nashville. I was a musician, songwriter, and what I realized is Nashville was the capital of songwriters in America. It's where everybody goes. So here's what happens: when you go to Nashville, you find the greatest collection of songwriters and singers and performers in the world. But because it attracts everyone, you also find the greatest collection of bad songwriters,
Yes.
bad performers, and bad singers in the world.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes there. So the philosophy is this: as something gets saturated with greatness, the chances of bad actually goes up because you're swinging, you're taking chances, you're trying things.
They're
So
making
as-
more content too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
As we get more Star Wars, we're taking more swings, we're taking more at bats. There are going to be more failures than there were before
Yeah.
because we're swinging more. So
I mean, that's
We
the same.
be-
It's exactly what's happening with Marvel right now. To the point where
Absolutely.
even Kevin Feige came out and said, "Hey, we're taking a
we
step
got to
back.
stop.
yeah.
We're taking a step back. We've been pushing our content too much.
If you
We're
go
pushing
too
things out too
far,
soon.
So
Take
yeah,
a step back.
I say that in defense of the Mando episode.
Yeah.
As you create content, a lot of good things, sometimes you're going to miss. So
Yeah.
you can look at that and say, why
Oh,
are these
man,
things
we
so
missed.
bad? Or you can say,
Just kidding.
Yeah.
or you can say, thank you for all the great stuff we're getting. And
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
the space we
Yeah.
live in.
And that's one of the
Right?
differences. Yes, not to
Yeah.
exactly, not to like pump up ourselves or anything, but I think one of the things we try to pride ourselves in is we can dislike that episode,
Right.
and
still-
also you can love that episode And
That's great.
That's great. We'll
Fine.
never try to convince you should dislike it.
No.
We're just saying our feelings.
That
But,
said,
and
if you did like it, who are you?
also, yeah, if
You're
you
not
did like
Smash
it,
the
yeah,
like button.
exactly.
Smash it.
But also,
Yeah, there's
it
room.
also doesn't
Yeah.
mean we now. I mean, I literally saw some people who have claimed that they love the show,
and now
and now they saw this episode and they're like, I'm not. I mean, I guess I'll keep watching. I'm like, what?
Yes, you'll keep.
Listen,
Of course,
I-
I'm gonna
Come
keep
on.
watching.
I was so thrown by that episode in a way that I've not necessarily even felt it watching any Star Wars stuff. Like, there's even some Book of Boba Fett's
Not
episodes
watching a Star Wars thing has
Hey,
never
that
crossed
I'm watching
my
them
mind,
like-
ever.
I never, like, in Book of Boba Fett, I saw the Vespas, that whole chase scene, and thought,
Right.
like, this is not the best thing I've ever seen. I never was
No.
like, I wonder if I'll watch next week. Duh, I'm going to
course
watch
not.
next week, because there's also, like you said, if I stop watching, I lose the good
that's right.
and the bad. Like, anyone who's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm out on Star Wars because they made a movie I don't like. Well,
I
do
saw.
you not want to, like, anyone who says,
Yeah.
oh, Disney ruined Star Wars, I don't want to watch Star Wars
Like Disney
anymore.
should
You're like,
just stop.
well,
making
you
Star
also
Wars.
know we wouldn't
Mhm.
have
No.
gotten any more Star Wars.
Right.
George was done with it. He was done with it.
Yeah.
And as much as he wants to say
I-
now, even though we're Lucas fans,
So you can-
George was
Right.
not going to make 7,
I-
8, 9.
This
So I
is
sold
perfect
it.
analogy. I love Starburst. Okay, I like them. They're
Yeah.
great.
You say
When-
Starbucks or
Starburst.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But when I pull out the pack and the first one's pink, I'm like, eh.
Oh, see.
But
Now,
I
for
keep
me,
going.
For me, that's one of my.
See, there you go. But I keep
Oh.
going
If it
because
were
I
yellow,
know
but I eat
I
it.
know there's a red
How
one
are
down
we feeling
there.
about orange?
You got to keep going.
Mediocre.
Got to keep going. Don't throw out
Yeah.
the whole pack of Starburst just because you don't like the pink or the yellow
Exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Finish the room.
Mando is a pack of Starburst.
Mando
That's what I'm
is
saying.
a Nashville pack of
Pack of
Starburst.
Bought on 21st Avenue
That's
South.
Oh man.
Wow,
love
that's
it.
full circle. And the Wizard of Oz.
Speaking of that, I
Oh,
saw
awesome.
we saw Super Smash Bros. Speaking of that, which has nothing to do with that, we saw Super Smash Bros. And
Jack Black.
Lucas.
Super Smash Bros. You mean Super
or
Mario
Super
Bros?
Super Mario Bros. Lucas Sound.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Lucas Sound was
The
it.
Skywalker
Was
Sound.
Skywalker
Oh,
Sound,
really?
Yeah, Skywalker Sound.
Cool.
Skywalker Sound does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they
They
do.
do.
But of course, that's the one thing I noticed in the credits.
They're good.
Halfway paying
Get out.
attention, waiting for post credits. Oh,
Get out to the
Skywalker
ranch.
Sound.
Watch them do some music out the
Skywalker
ranch.
Sound.
Well, Nate, where can they find us?
yeah, Uncle. Where can they find us?
Where can they find us? Everywhere you find your, I love that line. Everywhere you find your podcast, you will find the Star Wars
will
guys
find
there.
us.
We're on YouTube. We are
Yeah.
on Insta. We are
Ooh,
on Twitter.
Insta.
You on Twitter?
I'm
We're
on
not.
Twitter.
we're- Nate's
Nate's
on
on Twitter a lot these days.
I know Twitter's been great to me lately. I don't know what's
It's been
going on. It's
killing
been
it.
fun. It's been fun.
You should tweet out how awesome the last episode of Mando was.
Oh, I tweeted my thoughts.
I'm tweeting.
I'm tweeting, baby. No, I tweeted. I tweeting left and right. But no, Star Wars Twitter is great. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. Yeah, it's been good. But yeah, you can find the podcast, Spotify if you're ever listening and you
Spotify.
can't watch on YouTube.
We're on Apple.
Spotify, Apple,
Apple.
Google, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Obviously, the main channel here on YouTube. You can tune in and when we go live,
Oh, yeah.
comment along. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. So
And we can't wait for next week. These Mando
Can't
episodes are
wait.
going to be great.
from what we're hearing, the next
Awesome.
episode's great. It's
I'm
gonna
not
be
going to
good.
give away the cameo in the next episode.
Oh, Han.
Nope. Michael J. Fox.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, really?
No, I'm just
Wow.
kidding.
Michael J. Fox.
Doc, you guys, can you do a Michael J.
Doc.
Fox?
Whoa, Doc. Did you put
Scott Martin.
Did you put nanobots inside the droid drink?
I'm afraid so, that is that close to Travolta.
It really
You know,
is.
it's like
Did you put nanobots, in the It's Andy. I don't want to play with the droids no more.
That's so good.
It's all right. We'll go. Let's wrap
Okay,
it up.
great.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for
Sorry.
tuning in. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe,
Smash it.
and smash the
What are we
notification
doing?
bell so you don't miss out on future episodes and when we go live. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Great Scott Marty! Count Dooku was right. Separatist is a pejorative term.
Separate. Roger.
I love how he goes full bad, and he's like, "Oh, President!"
Oh,
And then Lizzo goes,
You're knighted.
You disappointed me. And he's like, I'm afraid.